Here we have on the workbench a circa 1960 Zenith model G730 AM FM radio, and here's the cabinet right here. I don't yet know whether this is going to be a repair video or a warning video. I have to talk to the guy that owns this. But there's a booth at one of the local flea markets where a guy supposedly sells restored radios. Take restored with a grain of salt, because I actually bought a couple of radios from him, and turns out he'd only done enough to them to make them play, and they didn't play that great. I had to actually restore the things, and now they play perfectly well. Well, I remember seeing this radio at the flea market. I think it had $95 on it. Well, some guy bought it, and a couple of weeks ago he brought it by for repair, and he said the radio had been playing, but it developed an intermittent band switch, and he sprayed some contact cleaner in the band switch, and now it won't play at all. Well, I just now opened it up today, and I don't think it's anything he did. I just think the radio was in such poor shape that him moving the chassis around just knocked it out of line altogether. As far as I can tell, nothing has been done to this radio. No capacitor replacement, no control cleaning, no tube socket cleaning, or nothing. We have our original selenium rectifier, as well as this original Bumble Bomb across the line capacitor. As you can see, I've already clipped it loose for testing purposes, because these capacitors are bad about blowing up, and the last thing I need is for it to blow up in my face while I'm working on it. So yeah, if nothing else, you'll get out of this video, take the word restored with a grain of salt. Maybe you're somebody that doesn't know anything about old radios. You see a cool looking old radio at the flea market that's supposed to be in tip-top shape, and you think, hey, I can buy this and take it home and use it and it'll be safe and work good. Well, that may not be the case. In my opinion, any restorer worth his or her salt will be willing to provide proof of what was actually done to the radio, as in pictures of the work done, if nothing else. But the fact remains, there are some shysters out there that, do as little as they have to get the radio to somewhat play, and then claim it's been restored, and then slap a big price tag on it. So be careful of that. I'll now plug this radio in and show you what I've found out with it so far. This is one of the 10,000 watt stations. It should be booming in. See, every one of these tube sockets are dirty.
Have regulations to where not just
well, that cleared up AM a little bit.
Hours loading the truck, unloading the truck,
right,
getting the truck ready.
They're required to take.
Yeah, they can work 8 hours getting the truck ready, but then have to sleep before they can drive. I'm not exactly sure the number of hours, but they have certain regulations.
A limited number of hours.
Okay, let's try it on FM now. FM's working. Okay, now let's clean these tube sockets. Okay, it's amazing what a little tube socket cleanup will do. All we did was spray the tube pins and the socket contacts with this control cleaner, and then we inserted, removed, and reinserted the tube in its socket a few times, and that took care of that problem.
Weather at least 3 hours from the Meridian area. We'll keep an eye on it for you. Yeah, girl, been digging on you.
Yeah, this modern country music, it's really not country. Here's our output of selenium rectifier, 96 volts. Should be about 130, 135, so this selenium rectifier is going to have to be replaced.
Go to DC.
And here's AM, by the way.
I had a brother that played baseball, in fact, for Ole Miss, and a brother that played football. So I like the Rebels, don't get me wrong, and
And after the radio stayed on a few minutes, the B plus dropped down a few volts, down to about 93. And this selenium is getting warm to the touch. So yeah, it's on its way out and needs to be replaced with a 1N4007 silicon diode and an appropriate dropping resistor. Okay, here we go. I've replaced the selenium rectifier with a silicon diode and a dropping resistor. I also replaced all of the other old capacitors. And we seem to be back in business. The schematic calls for 140 volts B+, and to achieve that I used a 47 ohm dropping resistor between the AC input and the rectifier diode, and we have about 138 volts, which is close enough.
I don't think that's too unlike Logan. You're in Madison. Hey, Ben.
FM. Here's AM.
There's a joke about a man that was hanging on a limb off a cliff.
Don't know where that interference is coming from.
Pay a visit to the hair care professionals at Jenkins Park.
And there are provisions that you can...
In 2009, I believe it was largely in reaction to...
Blessing that has been to us.
Sexy all the way up. I never seen a side ride seat looking so...
Some more of that junk that passes for country music. And just a quick look under the chassis before I put the bottom plate back on. There we are, back together.
On top of that lamp, this is an actual Millennium Falcon.
Heat even more. So I've got...
They didn't. We're still in roughness.
You have summer camps.
This might be it.
Anything else?
I believe somewhere in the dark night, every time.
Jenkins Barbershop about.
My sense from talking to people in the 7th District is that he had lost...
To bring more folks to the country, increase the labor supply, and by doing so,
there you
lower
go.
wage rates for the working person.
The 1960 Zenith AM/FM radio. Now back working like a radio should work. It's amazing what a little restoration work will do to a radio. Okay, there you go. Hope you got something out of all of this mess. Mainly buyer beware when you're buying a so-called restored radio. Alright, thanks for watching and more to come later. Well, I guess before we go, you want to see me analyze these capacitors that we took out. So we'll test them for leakage here. Capacitor number 1, leaking badly at 50 volts. Same deal with capacitor number 2. Capacitor number 3, and for those of you who don't know, a flashing or glowing light on this tester indicates leakage. Number 4, Number 5 is leaky, but not as bad as the other ones. I have to apply more voltage to it to get the light to start flashing, but it's still leaky all the same. Number 6, a ceramic cased Goodall capacitor. Yeah, this may be the best one out of the bunch. It's leaking some, as you can see. So yeah, actually not that great. And now the Bumble Bomb across the line capacitor is supposed to be a 0.047, reading about 0.06, and the eye opening is not very well defined. Surprisingly, it's not as leaky as I expected it to be. Usually these Bumble Bombs are leaking like crazy. Yeah, it's leaking a little bit, but which is very surprising. And here's the defective selenium rectifier that we've already proved to be bad. It was outputting about 93 or 94 volts when there should have been 140 coming off of it. And just to show you what I did regarding the rectifier replacement, here's the Bumble Bomb cap, 0.047, going from the anode of the rectifier to ground. That was replaced with a AC safety capacitor. And then we removed this selenium rectifier. And here, where the AC comes in, we placed a 47 ohm 2 watt resistor right here to drop the excess voltage. And that gave us around 138 volts here, so that's close enough to 140. We left this 22 ohm resistor in place. The multi-section filter can, which consists of an 80 microfarad and a 40 microfarad at 150 volts, was still good, but I went ahead and replaced them with 200 volt capacitors to compensate for the turn-on surge when you first turn the radio on. Okay, there we go. All ready to go back to its owner. Should run for a few more decades, hopefully.